Hi there, folks. I'm here with Elizabeth Leachman, your Foot Locker 2023 national champion. Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. All right, let's get right into this. So, last fall, you emerged as a very competitive name during your cross country season. However, this past track season and this cross country season, you've seemingly elevated things to a whole nother level. What would you credit to that change and that significant improvement?
Yeah, I think mostly just the ability to be consistent. I dealt with a lot of on and off injuries throughout that last fall season. So to be able to consistently be there, putting in the effort with my team, I think has made a big difference.
Gotcha. So, building up the season, we went to a lot of races, a lot of competitive races. What do you feel was the biggest, most impactful one, or which one helped your confidence the most going into the championship season,
This cross country season?
or any cross country season?
Hmm. I guess I would say this wasn't a huge race, but I guess the Feast Invitational in San Antonio, that was a really good race for me, and I just think that that was one of the strongest I've felt in a race. And so to be able to run as fast as I did helped give me a lot of confidence going into other meets.
And for context, can you clarify how fast you ran at that meet?
So it wasn't a full 5K. I don't know if we clarified how short it was, but I think they have it as like 3.08 or oh 09 on mile split, and I ran it in 15:56.
Very impressive. So, circling a bit from the regular season to the championship to Foot Locker itself. Uh, so you mentioned to our, we had an on-site correspondent, Andrew, there, and he mentioned that there were some differences in your interview, some differences between how you ran a Foot Locker and how you ran an NXN. What do you think was your biggest takeaway for that? Just to reiterate for our audience here.
Yeah, I think that coming away from NXN, I just knew that I was going to have to be flexible instead of being tied to a certain kind of racing plan. So I really tried to Foot Locker just use everything I learned from NXN to approach it based on the circumstances, not just what I wanted to do.
Did you have a set strategy going into Foot Locker, or did you end up sticking to that, or did things kind of fly out the window?
Yeah, at NXN, I think that I was so tied to the idea of being out front just because everyone was saying that a lot of boys were getting stuck in the pack and then not being able to get out. And so I was really tied to the idea of being out front, and I didn't really listen to kind of the cues my body was giving me of now it's time to back down a little bit. And so at Foot Locker, I really tried to just go with what I was feeling instead of going with a specific plan.
Gotcha. So Rachel Forsythe opened up a very large gap at the mile marker, give or take 10 seconds. Did you feel panicked at all? Were you nervous? Did you expect it to go out so aggressive? What was running, like, what was going through your mind at that point?
Yeah, I mean, she's a great runner and she does like to take it out fast. So I wasn't really surprised to see her up there, but she's really good. So to have someone that talented open up a gap that big definitely is a little bit scary, especially for me because I really like to lead races. But I kind of just had to trust that I was doing what I needed to do. And so I tried to just rely on that and work on moving towards her as much as I could.
Gotcha. And something that's been stated a lot is the differences between the courses between NXN and Foot Locker. Can you reiterate a bit of those differences for us and how that may have helped your game plan going around your second national championship?
Yeah, so one of the main differences is definitely the terrain. At NXN, it's on a soft golf course, and it was this year very, very muddy. But Foot Locker was nice and dry, and yeah, and the ground's just not as soft there. There's a lot of compact dirt, but the biggest difference, I guess, in just how the course is naturally would be that hill at Foot Locker, as opposed to, I guess, all of the more rolling hills at NXN. So yeah.
Gotcha. So You seemed create separation. It was decent separation or so around the 2 mile mark. When did it really? What do you consider the key turning point in that race? Would you say it's around the 2 mile marker or the one? Where would you consider the key turning point?
I guess the biggest point for me in that race was when I was up there with Rachel and we were kind of trading places because that's usually a place in the race where I'd get a little too excited and probably push it too hard. But I tried to kind of stay relaxed and just work with the moves that she made. And so I think that was probably the most, I guess, pivotal factor in coming out with the win.
Gotcha. And speaking about coming out the win, did it ever dawn at you, hey, I'm going to be the national champion at some point during the race up until you cross that line?
Not really. I had my dad kind of yelling for me how far behind me they were at once I took the lead. And I remember at one point he said I had 9 seconds, and then at another point, a little bit later, he said I had 8. So I was like, oh, they're closing on me. I hope I can hold this. But yeah, I didn't really expect it till I was actually able to see the tape in front of me. So.
So you mentioned a bit about the times and just that gap shrunk for a little bit. But you ended up putting 14 seconds between you and the second place finisher and between the 2 mile mark in the end. Are you surprised to hear that at all? Were you shocked when you saw that? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely am. I definitely was at the time, but yeah, I think that the biggest part in that was just not taking it out as aggressively as I usually like to. But yeah.
Gotcha. So after the race, like I mentioned, we had a contributor on site who was able to grab a quick, immediate thoughts interview from you. Is there anything that now you've had a couple weeks time, you can kind of circle back like, hey, I wish I should have said this? Anything that you want people to know about that race or any thoughts you have about that race that you want to share that we haven't already covered?
Yeah, I guess nothing in particular except I do want to give some more credit to my coaches for just supporting me through this and my teammates back home because I know Foot Locker scene is really an individual event, but without them and their support throughout this season, I don't think I would have ever made it there. So just I want to give thanks to them and recognize all that they were a part of in that.
Makes sense. It's a great thing to shout out. So, kind of on sort of a similar train of thought, what's one piece of advice that you would give to younger athletes who are just starting out or they have championship aspirations but they aren't quite there yet? What's one piece of advice that you would give to those athletes?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice I can give to anyone is just consistency because it it seems like it's not going to work out a lot of the time, but eventually things will fall into place. I remember last year I was stuck running the same time every time I tried to run a mile all out for the longest time. Like I think 6 months straight, every time I tried it, I would hit 5:23 on the dot. And so I think, if you just keep being consistent and trusting in your training, it might take a long time, but it'll pay off. So just keep working hard and yeah.
You gave me a great segue into my next question there. So you mentioned 5:23 mile, which is wildly outdated as your PR. You're much faster than that now. What are some goals for track and beyond that? Long term, college, if you thought about that, or post collegiate?
Yeah, I think I'm most excited for the 32 this upcoming track season. I didn't have the best end to that in my UIL season, but I got to run a pretty good 2 mile at Nike Outdoors. So I'm hoping I can improve on that, but I guess we'll see how it goes. And then I want to run a couple 5Ks probably outside of school meets. So I'm excited to see what the contrast of that from track to cross country will be, or cross country to track.
All good. So, anything else that you want to say about this race or your season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just I'm really grateful for all the opportunities I've been given and all the support I've gotten along the way. I really would not be here without it. So
All right. Well, that's all I got for you. So, thank you so much and happy holidays. Okay.
thank you. Happy holidays.